Okay, so we have Breaking Ranks. This is the episode of Rebels where Ezra enters an Imperial Academy on Lothal, which apparently anyone can enter, considering we never got to see how Ezra entered it, but he entered it. And his job was to get this decoder thing so they could find out where this the Kyber crystal shipment was. So Ezra gets there, befriends some kids there, and the shipment of Kyber crystals destroyed. Ezra breaks out, but this one kid stays behind to find out what happened to his sister, who disappeared due to the Inquisitor. And yeah, it was an overall nice episode. So, yeah, I actually kind of enjoyed this one. What, were you expecting me to rant on it and hate on it? Well, no, because I didn't. I actually did enjoy this episode. There was a lot of really good stuff in it. For one thing, it was paced really nicely. Like everything flowed nicely. They put a lot into these 20 minutes. I also liked how it wasn't too goofy or cliche. I think this is the first time on the Clone Wars, Rebels, where the show actually kind of took itself somewhat seriously. It wasn't on a lot of annoying comedy or referencing the original trilogy. It was the first time the show was sort of being its own thing and starting to come up with its own identity, and I kind of like that. I mean, I still don't really care much for Ezra, but I do like the idea of focusing on specific characters, and I would like to see the show do something similar for the other characters so we can get to know them a little bit better. This episode is also good in that it did kind of show that not everyone in the Empire is evil. Like, these are perfectly nice kids who probably get brainwashed or tortured or whatever by the Empire into becoming the cruel officers and soldiers that they are. And it kind of reminded me of the headband episode of The Last Airbender, although I feel like that episode showed it a lot better. And even on Clone Wars, they showed it a bit better. But yeah, there were some dark stuff in this episode. Like, the Imperials were menacing. Like, the Inquisitor has this dark, threatening presence to him. The kid's sister disappearing. It's like, ooh, what happened to his sister? I mean, it's almost like the show wants to say she was killed, but they can't say that because it's a Disney show. But I feel like that's what happened. I'm really curious to know what she did to disappear. The action was fun. I did enjoy the obstacle course, although it did remind me a little too much of the one from the box episode of Clone Wars. In fact, I think that might have been a much cooler obstacle course. And also, the show was much better about hiding its limitations. It was a small academy, so it made sense for us not to have that many stormtroopers. The simple textures for once worked. And, everything looked nice, especially the space battle I thought looked kind of cool. I mean, the only time I felt like the show's limitations really showed were the people who, the human characters still don't look quite right to me. They still look a little off. I mean, people are hard to do, so I'm giving it slack. But at the same time, Clone Wars, they pretty much got the people down because, I don't know. Because the Clone Wars, they were going for a more realistic look, and the art style they found worked. Whereas this, I still feel like it, again, they're still trying to figure out how to do people in the Ralph McQuarrie art, because from what I've seen in the Ralph McQuarrie art, he didn't draw people a lot. He drew backgrounds, he drew creatures, and all this stuff. He didn't really draw that many people, so maybe they're a little unsure about how to do people. But yeah. I thought the action was fun. I liked the space battle. I thought that was really cool. I do like the nod to the Kyber crystal. It's like there's a Kyber crystal shipment. And what I like about that is that's pretty much a nod to the Clone Wars. Because if you go into StarWars.com, they put up this arc that was going to appear in Clone Wars, probably Season 6, where Anakin and Obi-Wan go on this adventure and they find these Kyber crystals, which it's heavily implied that's how it was going to be used for the Death Star. So it was kind of cool to acknowledge that. I mean, it's like, if you watch Clone Wars, you know, oh, that's for the Death Star, but they don't know that yet. They just know it's a crystal shipment. And, like, similar to Clone Wars, like, you know, it's like you shoot it and it refracts, so it's kind of cool to see the explosion again. It's kind of like, it's almost like Filoni's trying to take elements from the Clone Wars that he never got to use and work them into the show. Which, again, because when Filoni was writing this, I don't know if he knew whether or not he was going to be able to take the remaining concepts and locations from Clone Wars and work them into the show. But, yeah, that was kind of a cool nod. And it does make you curious what other stuff is going to be worked in from Clone Wars into this that he never got to use. Because we've had Stygian Prime. I'm going to assume Kessel would have appeared in Clone Wars. Like, that was the one big location we didn't get to see in Rebels. Clone Wars that, again, I'll have to ask. I'll tweet one of the writers and ask them if... No, never mind. The writers don't answer most... I mean, they answer some tweets, but it's like, they probably wouldn't answer a question about Clone Wars, but... Same way. But with all that said, you sort of need to ask yourself, are we going to see Ahsoka in Rebels? Because the thing is, if you go into IGN, there's this interview they did with Dave Filoni about last week's episode, Old Masters, and he mentioned that he was going to have a conversation, many years ago, he was going to have a conversation with George. Not many years ago, I forget. But there was a conversation he was going to have with George about whether or not Vader could sense Ahsoka and or vice versa. Which makes me wonder, is that based off an original idea he had for the Clone Wars? And if so, it feels like something we're going to see worked into the show at some point. I very much feel like we're going to see Ahsoka and Rebels. But I feel like, well, you see here, it's going to be based off of the Legacy. Because, like, given that they've worked some stuff from Legacy, like the Darth Stygian Prime Prison and the Kyber Crystal, I feel like when we see Ahsoka, it's going to be based off of an upcoming Legacy story. Like, in case you don't know, Filoni posted a sketch online, like, right around the time the Lost Missions came out, that showed Ahsoka, a picture of Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, implying that there was going to be an arc in Clone Wars that would feature Ahsoka and Bo-Katan. So, I feel like if we are going to see Ahsoka and Rebels, we're going to get that story first, whether it be through rough cut, comic, novel, I don't know, but I feel like we're going to get that story, and then we're going to get Ahsoka. But anyway, back to the episode. Sorry I got sidetracked there, but I just love talking about Clone Wars. I am interested in what's going to happen to the one kid that stayed behind at the academy. Is he going to be good? Is he going to get tortured? Is he going to be a villain? Is he going to pretend to be good, but secretly being forced to work for the Inquisitor? Honestly, the most I can see is him just threatening him with his sister, and then sending him to betray Ezra, which could be kind of cool. And then there was the Morgan kid. I think he was the kid that stayed behind. Apparently there's some novel series being done about him, which I guess it's kind of a cool tie-in, although I haven't read the novel. It looked like a little kid thing, but if it's good, please comment and I'll be sure to check it out at some point. Also, I really enjoyed the fact that one of the kids was voiced by Dante Vasco. I love him, mainly from Last Airbender, but I enjoyed hearing his voice. It's always amazing how, despite the fact that that guy is almost like in his 40s, he's still able to get across that young-sounding voice, and I really hope we get to hear Dante Vasco's voice again. Again, that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed this episode so much, is because I got to hear Dante Vasco's voice. So yeah, again, pretty good episode. Not pretty good. It was an entertaining episode. I, took itself seriously, well-paced. Again, just need to work on those people. But yeah, like, if the show just continues to build off of this, I feel like this show could become something. It's kind of like Clone Wars, where in Season 1 it was kind of like a dumb little kid show, and that, not every episode clicked. And then there were some episodes that had those, like, interesting ideas that eventually became, like, what the show was. So I really hope that the show just by Season 3, it's taking this and the Vader clip, which they showed last week, and just makes that more of what the show is. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this episode. So, what do you think of Star Wars Rebels Breaking Ranks? Was this a good episode, or are you like, yeah? Please comment and let me know. And as always, like, dislike, comment, subscribe. This is JStar360, and may the Force be with you.